The case for moral selfishness. Many moral judgments in everyday life treat selfishness as something inherently negative. When someone takes more than their fair share, such as consuming all the cake meant to be shared or hoarding wealth while others suffer, we instinctively condemn the behavior as selfish. In ordinary language, selfishness refers to pursuing one's own advantage while disregarding the legitimate needs or claims of others. Because many harmful actions appear to stem from this narrow self-concern, selfishness becomes closely associated with moral wrongdoing. Philosophical theories of well-being, however, complicate this picture. Hedonistic theories identify the good with pleasure and the absence of pain. Desire-based theories identify the good with the satisfaction of a person's desires, and objectiveless theories propose that certain goods, such as knowledge, friendship, achievement, or autonomy, are valuable independently of what anyone happens to want. Although these theories differ in their accounts of what constitutes well-being, they share a common feature. They treat the good as something that pertains to a human's being self-interest in their flourishing. Even when they disagree about the content of well-being, they assume that value is grounded in the conditions under which human lives go well. This human-centered orientation is striking, because it is difficult to find a theory of the good that is not, in some way, anthropocentric. Whether one emphasizes pleasure, desire, or objective goods, the underlying assumption is that value is tied to human nature, human capacities, and human forms of flourishing. Even theories that attempt to be neutral, such as desire theories, still rely on the structure of human psychology. Hedonism depends on human affective systems. Objectiveless theories depend on human developmental and social needs. In this sense, the good is in us, because it arises from what humans are like, and about us, because it concerns the fulfillment of human potentials. Recognizing this helps clarify why selfishness, in the everyday sense, is morally troubling even within theories that ground value in human interests. Self-interest, properly understood, refers to the conditions that genuinely contribute to a person's well-being. Selfishness, by contrast, is a distortion of self-interest. It ignores the social, relational, and cooperative dimensions of human flourishing. A person who acts selfishly may satisfy an immediate desire, but they undermine the deeper goods, such as trust, reciprocity, and community, that humans require to live well. Thus, even desire theories and hedonistic theories must distinguish between desires that genuinely promote well-being and those that are misguided, harmful, or contrary to a person's long-term good. This helps us understand what being selfish means. It means making one's life best, which often also means helping to make other life go well, and supporting one another. A more nuanced account of self-interest must distinguish between immediate desire satisfaction and long-term, reflective self-interest, which often yield different verdicts about what is best for a person. Immediate desires track what is gratifying in the moment: comfort, pleasure, convenience, or the avoidance of short-term discomfort. Long-term self-interest, by contrast, concerns the conditions under which a life goes well as a whole, the pursuit of stable relationships, meaningful projects, competence, reputation, and the ability to achieve one's deeper aims. These two dimensions of self-interest can diverge sharply. A person may want to indulge a fleeting impulse, yet also want to become someone capable of discipline, trustworthiness, or excellence. When long-term self-interest is understood in this richer sense, it becomes clear why actions that appear altruistic, helping others, cooperating, exercising restraint, are often expressions of a more sophisticated form of self-concern. They protect the social and institutional structures that enable individuals to flourish, and they cultivate the character traits required for maximal achievement. In this way, the pursuit of one's true good naturally extends outward. By aligning immediate desires with long-term aims, individuals contribute not only to their own flourishing, but also to the stability and prosperity of the communities that make such flourishing possible. Why desiring an evil act is still against one's self-interest. Even when a person sincerely desires to perform an evil act, their desire does not automatically align with their true self-interest. Immediate desires can be shaped by distorted emotions, impaired empathy, or narrow situational focus, and thus fail to track the conditions under which a human life genuinely goes well. Because human flourishing depends on stable agency, psychological integrity, trust, and participation in cooperative social structures, the pursuit of evil undermines the very foundations of a person's long-term good. An agent who harms others corrodes their own character, isolates themselves from the relationships that sustain well-being, and diminishes their capacity for achievement, meaning, and self-respect. In this sense, evil actions are not merely morally wrong, they are self-defeating. They express a misapprehension of what is genuinely good for the agent, mistaking a momentary impulse for a form of self-interest that, when viewed over the arc of a life, is fundamentally hostile to the agent's own flourishing. This distinction also parallels misunderstandings in evolutionary theory, particularly the selfish gene metaphor. Although genes behave as if they are selfish in reproduction, this often produces cooperation and altruism at the level of organisms. How selfish genes produce altruism. The ground squirrel sentinel case. Imagine a population of ground squirrels living in an open field. Hawks hunt them from above. When a hawk approaches, one squirrel sometimes stands upright, gives a loud alarm call, and warns the others. This behavior is altruistic at the organism level because the caller draws attention to itself. It increases its own risk of being eaten. Meanwhile, the other squirrels escape. So why would natural selection preserve a behavior that puts the individual in danger? The selfish gene explanation. According to the selfish gene theory, what matters is not the survival of the individual organism, but the propagation of the genes that built that organism. Here's how the logic works. 1. The sentinel squirrel is usually surrounded by close relatives, siblings, cousins, offspring. 2. These relatives share many of the same genes. 3. When the sentinel warns them, those shared genes survive in the bodies of the relatives who escape. 4. Even if the sentinel dies, the genes that predisposed it to call out are preserved in the surviving kin. So the gene acts selfishly by promoting its own replication, even though the organism behaves altruistically. Why this counts as altruism emerging from selfishness? At the gene level, the gene is selfish, it increases its own chances of being passed on. At the organism level, the behavior is altruistic, risking oneself to help others. This is the key insight. Genes that promote altruistic behavior toward relatives can spread, because they help copies of themselves survive in other bodies. Similarly, grounding morality in human well-being does not imply endorsing selfish behavior. Because humans are social and interdependent, their flourishing depends on cooperation, empathy, fairness, and mutual support. A theory of the good that takes human nature seriously, therefore, includes concern for others as part of what it means to live well. The tension between our intuitive condemnation of selfishness and philosophical accounts that center human interests generates rich and enduring problems in ethics. It forces deeper reflection on what counts as a person's true good, how desires relate to well-being, and whether any theory of value can escape being fundamentally human-centric. Far from being a trivial puzzle, this tension lies at the heart of moral philosophy and continues to motivate sophisticated attempts to reconcile self-interest, human nature, and moral responsibility. Theories of value may begin with the individual, but they rarely end there. Hedonism, desire theory, and objectivist theory all assume that human nature provides the framework for understanding what is good. Yet human nature is not solitary, it is social, cooperative, and morally responsive. This is why conventionally considered selfishness, though superficially aligned with personal gain, often undermines the very conditions that make life good. The pursuit of well-being, when properly understood, includes fairness, empathy, and restraint, not as moral add-ons, but as integral to human flourishing. This is how selfishness can result in face-value selfless acts. In this light, the tension between self-interest and morality is not a contradiction, but a challenge to define the good in a way that honors both the individual and the community. Theories that fail to account for this, those that ignore the relational dimensions of human life, risk collapsing into narrow subjectivism or moral blindness. But those that succeed offer a compelling vision that the good is not just what we want, but what we are built to need. And in that need, we find both the roots of morality and the possibility of a life well lived.